Hello and welcome to my EdTech 592 ePortfolio. My name is Brian Hyatt. I am a Master's of Educational Technology candidate for spring of 2013. This video will take you back through my journey through the program, starting in the summer of 2009 and continuing through now. A little bit of background. I've been an educator for over 5 years, working in earth science in public middle schools, and also taught at an international private school in China in secondary mathematics, teaching mainly geometry and consumer mathematics. Currently, I'm an instructional designer for Penn State's World Campus. I work with psychology faculty to build and maintain their online courses for the Bachelor of Science and Bachelor of Arts programs. I hope you enjoy the journey through my time in the program. The first artifact I'd like to share with you is from EdTech 502. And it's not any one particular activity that was done in the course, but more the course as a whole. First challenge I ran into was learning new skills. I'm not averse to learning new skills. Over the years I've done a number of different things, whitewater rafting, where learning sometimes gets you a little wet. Kitchen remodeling project I did in the past, not knowing anything about plumbing or electrical work or carpentry. Had to learn as I go, and I thoroughly enjoy that. And EdTech 502 really was a reminder of that. Had some problems with getting Dreamweaver to work on my machine, so I ended up learning how to write HTML and CSS code by hand in order to keep up with the course. It was quite a challenge, but for me it really drew me in and engaged me in the activities and really developed a deeper understanding of code and how it's used as a foundation for creating websites, which became a very handy skill later in courses. Next aspect of the course that was really significant for me was thinking big. Having a global view, looking at what the end result was wanted to be and envisioning the process that it would need to happen in order to get there. I was not able to just fall back on prior knowledge and skills and wing it when activities needed to be done. Justification was another significant portion of the course. I needed to understand why I was doing the things I did. In the planning stages, to think globally, determine what you wanted that end product to look at, and then look at each step you're going to do along the way and determine why. Backwards design, even though it wasn't something that was distinctly addressed in the course, it played a key role. And as this problem-solving strategy was applied, it really cut down on the meandering. If you didn't have that end goal, that end product in mind of what your activity was going to look like or do, then you could spend a lot of time just wandering back and forth and doing really interesting things, but they may be things that did not specifically need to be done in order to turn out a quality product at the end. Second artifact I'd like to share with you comes from EdTech 542. And again, like 502, it's not a specific activity within the course that I'd like to share, but more what I took away from the course as a whole. A little background information to set the stage first. I just completed my first year of teaching in a mastery-based learning environment. I was working for Quality Schools International, and they have developed their own curriculum for all their K-12 courses and age levels. They took each year-long course and divided it into 10 units. Each one of these units was then had a number of standards or objectives that each student was expected to be able to master before they could progress on to the next unit. This created a number of challenges for me personally as an instructor. It seemed very much like teaching to the test. It was very difficult to get students engaged in creative problem solving, and really created quite a process, frustrating process for me as I went through the teaching for mastery iterations of instruction and assessment, followed up by either enrichment if they had performed well, or reteaching and reassessing if their performance was not up to the level of mastery. Again, became a repetitive process and really took away from the course for the students as well as for myself. Specifically in geometry, this really created a number of shortcomings for me as an instructor. It became difficult to really show how the course itself could reach out into all these different fields. You could virtually find a content or a topic that students really enjoyed personally, and you could tie it back to something in geometry. So it really shortchanged the students. It took a lot of the fun out of the course and the real application. It made it very difficult throughout the middle of the year trying to really keep students engaged. After completing that first year of teaching, I took EdTech 542 the following summer. With the project-based learning model that they use, had a phrase called begin with the end in mind. And this focused on determining that long-term objectives. What's the end goal? In this case, for the courses I was teaching, it was the standards that were laid out for the units. And then working backwards from there to determine how to engage students and show that they can achieve those objectives. Very similar to a process called reverse engineering, where you start with the final product that you have, and you work backwards to figure out how it was created, how it was made, and the steps that needed to be gone through in order to recreate it. With the standards that were laid out in the curriculum, it set the stage very well, working within the framework of the project-based learning model, to tie these standards to broad perspective projects that really contained real application, that developed some real meaningful real-world application for students. And this is something that definitely I took away from the course and the program as a whole, of how to engage students in something more than just mathematical steps in a class. It really helped to see how all these little pieces of a puzzle fit together to create a great work of art, or in this case, hopefully for the students, a great learning experience that was meaningful and engaging. And the biggest factor in this was to move away from just focusing on students being able to do the mathematics, but instead through the projects that they were engaged in, to focus on the higher order thinking skills, the planning, the creating and analyzing what they had created from a mathematical perspective. Really helped develop a sense of how integral mathematics is to so many different areas of content. Last artifact I have to share with you is not one that's from the coursework for the MET program, but actually a culmination of all of the courses. At the time, I was working for an international school that had a significant problem with staff turnover. Staff were anywhere from 35 to 45 or 50% were leaving annually. And this created a significant problem for the school, as you can imagine. So we needed to come up with a solution. When staff who were leaving were asked why they were leaving, there's a lot of answers that related to dealing with the challenges. They didn't know we were going to have to do this, problems that they faced professionally in teaching in a mastery learning environment, and also living internationally in a foreign culture. It was a first experience for many, and one that they did not feel prepared for, and as a result, chose not to stay for a significant amount of time at the school. So we came up with a solution. We determined that if we could better prepare staff for the challenges that they would face before arriving in the country, then they would be more prepared to deal with them, and as a result would be happier with their personal lives, living in a new culture, and also their professional lives working in the classroom. So as a part of this process, the solution was to create an online course for the students to engage in prior to arriving in country. I worked as a co-author on this course when, along with the subject matter experts, we went through the entire ADDIE model. We took all the pieces and we put them together. Again, for part of the MET program, it looked as a culmination of all the different skills in analyzing situations, beginning with the end in mind, determining objectives and outcomes, what you wanted to achieve, and how to put those into practice into activities that were engaging and effective for helping, in this case, helping to prepare incoming staff for the experiences that they would have at their new school and in the new country they were living in. As a follow-up to activity, it was not part of actually the course itself, but when I took EdTech 505 evaluation, I did a formal evaluation of the course, and it was a nice follow-up. It really finished off the entire process of the ADDIE model from start to end and looked at every aspect of the course from development all the way through follow-through. Also, as a kind of a nice side note, I myself decided to leave the school and explore a new profession, getting out of the classroom and to look at becoming an instructional designer. I was asked to interview with Penn State's World Campus, and as part of the interview process, I had to walk through a design project that I had worked on. In this presentation, I actually was able to take the course that I had worked on and walk through it and use the structure of the ADDIE model in order to illustrate the steps that I would go through in the process of course development and all of the necessary parts that included. It made for a very nice presentation from my perspective and apparently from the others as well, as I was offered a position and am now currently working as an instructional designer with Penn State. So after looking at some of the more significant experiences I've had in the EdTech program, I've drawn a few conclusions. First, that quality teaching is not about the environment, whether it's online or in a physical classroom. It's really based on quality learning experiences, as we've learned as standards-based learning, with engaging students in meaningful activities and allowing them to really explore their learning options. Secondly, big picture. It's essential. Begin with the end in mind is a phrase you've heard a few times. It's really significant in helping you stay on task and creating an experience that doesn't have extra miscellaneous details that really aren't focused towards achieving the end goal. Lastly, effective problem solving. No matter what the situation is, whether you are developing a course, a lesson, or a student engaged in the activity, strategies that are employed in effective problem solving span across so many different areas within education and life in general. Keeping these in mind is a significant tool when you go to approach tasks that you're challenged with. Thank you for taking the time to view my portfolio, and I hope you took away a little bit of my experiences through the EdTech program at Boise State.